We are live from our studios in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. This is the home of fearless, credible, and independent journalism. On the Pulse this afternoon, our lead stories. Police in the Central Region round up 340 suspected criminals in an operation dubbed Storm Kaswa. We have details. Muslim MPs engage Methodist Church to resolve the no Ramadan fast impasse at Wesley Girls SHS. Now, from admission, denial, streetism, spirit children, among a tall list of what has been described as abuse of children. Today, we're going to focus on Child Protection Ghana. I will be having a conversation with Child Rights International, get to the bottom of these thorny issues. Right, all of this to come on The Pulse. Stay with us. Right, let's get right in. Police in the Central Region have arrested 340 suspected criminals at Kaswa in the Central Region in an operation dubbed Operation Storm Kaswa. Now, the arrests, according to the police, forms part of measures employed by the security agencies to bring to combat the crime situation there. Briefing the media at Kaswa, Central Regional Police Commander DCOP Habiba Chumesi Sapong warned that they will make life uncomfortable for criminals in Kaswa and throughout the region. Richard Kojo-Nyakun was there. He has more.
The 340 suspected criminals include 5 females. The Operation Storm Kaswa by the police is an operation activated by the Central Regional Police Command to fight crime in the area. On the 20th of April, the Regional Police Command issued a release indicating the deployment of police personnel to augment what the command has at Kaswa. In today's operation, the police retrieved a total of 240 laptops, 142 assorted mobile phones, and 6 Nigerian passports during the operation. They also found on 9 persons substances suspected to be Indian hemp. DCOP Habiba Chumesi Sapong is the Regional Police Commander.
On 29th of April 2021, today, the Central Regional Police Command embarked on special operation dubbed Operation Storm Kaswa to climb down on rampant criminal activities in Kaswa municipality and its environment. The team went to Budumburam, Kaswa CP, Adade, Akwele, and Ofako and arrested 340 suspects. Most of them Nigerians, including 5 females. 9 of the suspects were found in possession of substance suspected to be Indian hemp.
The Regional Police Command is assuring criminals in Kaswa and its environs their reign is over.
Again, the 10th city we spoke about on the 20th of April to be mounted within communities in Kaswa is in progress. Plans are advanced in collaboration with opinion leaders in forming community watch committees. Inaugurations will be held soon. Media and community engagements are still ongoing. More informants cultivated. The command is once again reminding the general public that their cooperation is much needed. They should share information with the police. We say, if you see something, say something. And if you want to say something about crime. We want to sound a word of caution to criminals that police command will make the region uncomfortable for criminals to stay. We assure the general public that security situation in the region is perfect and calm. The police will ensure professionalism in all its operations in the region. The command will welcome all complaints against police officers, and due process will also be taken to bring justice to all.
The police say they have begun screening them and would process them for court. Richard.
Yep, Richard Kwejunyako with that report. Now, let's go to him now. He brought us the story. He joins me on Zoom. Could you tell us a little bit more? What else did you learn about this operation?
Well, so the operation was triggered by the press conference that was held by the Central Regional Police Command. And so there have been a police deployment in the Kaswa area for the past 2 weeks. What I learned about this is that those who were arrested mostly were told by the command were Nigerians. So most of them were foreign nationals. So they swooped on them in their hideout, and then in several obscure places that have been tagged in Kaswa as a den of criminals. And so they said that they were going to go after them to ensure that sanity is brought to the Kaswa area, so residents could go about their normal.
Right. So there are some people who say they have been victims of attacks from some of these suspects. Is there some sort of identification parade that's going to happen to help them?
It's exactly what the police regional commander indicated, that they are going to screen them and then process them for court. And that includes conducting an identification parade for people that have been victims of from the activities of these people, to come and identify them. So I'm not sure that it's all the 340 suspected criminals that will be put before court, because screening would have to be done. Some people obviously might not have been part or might not be part of the criminal activities that go on in Kaswa. And so all of these people will be screened, and those the police believe verily to be innocent, they will just take them out and then process the rest, who they believe they have information adequately enough for them to put them before court.
Okay, thank you very much for that update. Richard Kwejunyako there from the Central Regional town of Kaswa. Now, the Muslim caucus in Parliament has met the leadership of the Methodist Church to resolve an issue in which a Muslim student enrolled at Wesley Girls SHS was restrained by the school authorities from observing the Ramadan fast. An angry father, Ismail Zakaria Al-Hassan, on Monday stormed the school in Cape Coast to withdraw his daughter, Bushira Ismail, because she and other Muslim students were not permitted to observe the Ramadan fast. We're going to bring you details of that meeting shortly. But first, here's a report filed earlier by our Central Regional correspondent, Richard Kwejunyako.
According to Zakaria Al-Hassan Ismail, the complaint of his daughter, a first-year student of Wesley Girls Senior High School, made him decide to come to the school to withdraw her immediately.
She was complaining that she's not been allowed to do fasting, because I know my daughter, she normally do fasting. Any year that we do fasting, she is also doing the fasting. Even when she was in primary and the GHS, she was doing the fasting, and then the same time attend school. So when she came here and she is not been allowed to take the to do the fasting, then she was worried. So she told me that she's not been given the chance to do fasting one, and even she had the opportunity to meet the head, and still the head did not allow her to do the fasting.
Ismail, a first-year student, didn't understand why the school does not allow students to fast, and so when the dad called her, she informed him that she is not being allowed to fast, hence the visit of the dad.
He's saying, like, the Muslims are not allowed to fast in this school. I didn't understand, so I wanted to meet the headmistress for her to explain to me, but I didn't get the chance to talk to her. So I was there when they came to call me. She wants to meet me, but at first I was really worried. I even cried a lot because it's my tradition, and I've been doing it since I was a kid. Almost 8 years I started fasting, so I was very sad when they told me I can't be able to fast this year. I was really sad.
The headmistress of the school indicated it was not only Muslim students in the school that are not allowed to fast, but all students from different denominations, including Christians. But Mr. Al-Hassan was not convinced. He wanted the school to allow the student to fast.
So I myself today and the mother, we came together, and then we sat down with the administrator, and then he subsequently took us to the head. We sat down, and then we started the discussion. So in fact, I said that I want to take her home and then change school for her so that she can get a school where she can do the fasting. But later on, when we finished and the head asked her whether she's ready to go out of this school and go to another school. She said no.
Bushira Ismail indicated although she has come to love the school because of the ideals and the holistic education provided, she wishes management would reconsider its stance on fasting. Thus, the headmistress put the question to the student after the father still insisted withdrawing the daughter from the school. She asked her if she wanted to stay and learn or follow the dad. Bushira replied she would stay and learn. The matter was thus settled, and the father of Bushira told Joy News once his daughter has agreed to stay, he had no option than to allow her to stay, but insists the school should do something about their stance. Reporting from Wesley Girls High School in Cape Coast, Richard Kwejenyako for Joy News.
We'll bring you updates on that meeting that we mentioned earlier. But right now, though, let's go to Tema, where daily shortage of water is fast becoming the norm in parts of the metropolis, which has been battling the challenge for ages now. Residents say an announcement of more disruption to the already erratic supply of the utility by the Ghana Water Company Limited last week has worsened the situation. They say they are forced to either buy water from private suppliers at exorbitant prices or travel several kilometers to draw water from wherever they can find it. And they want government to intervene immediately to deal with the situation. As part of our Safe Water project, my colleague Manuel Coranting spent the day in Tema. Here's his report.
Even though Ghana met the drinking water target for the Millennium Development Goals 5 years ahead of the 2015 deadline, access is still not uniform across the country. While rural areas are easily suspected to have the challenge, some residents in peri-urban areas are also affected. A typical example, Tema New Town, in the Tema metropolis and its environs.
I bathed with only 3 cups of water this morning. There's no water here.
5 days
They use the tricycles to get the water from other communities. The situation is even worse up the hill.
According to the residents, this challenge, which has existed for years, only got worse after scheduled cuts in the already staggered supply from the Ghana Water Company Limited. The Skinky Seller's shop has been closed for days.
The
taps haven't been flowing for over a week now. I just want to buy these gallons of water. One costs 1 cedi 50 pesos, so I couldn't even open my shop today.
15 cedi, 1 cedi 50 pesos.
With gallons lined up in front of every household, tricycle riders are the biggest gainers of the situation. We supply the water at a charge. Today I've supplied more than 150 gallons. So when they call us, we go and pick them up.
Because 100 40 gallons, 60.
For those who cannot afford to pay, they travel several kilometers to fetch milky water from this dugout.
It's like a gutter. It's been over a month since the taps were closed.
For some weekends today, the water is not more coming where that's why it becomes like washing. Some to use to bath, but you cannot use it to cook because there is salt inside, that's why. And this thing, there are small animals, bacteria inside. So that one you can use it to wash, but you cannot use it to cook.
Since last 2 weeks, water has become a problem to us, and this is the place we have been washing, Some have been fetching water to their homes. Oh, the water is not clean, and we don't know where the water is coming from. Mayam is one, Bankuman, Abonko, Awudum, B-Park, Ju, To, and stuffs.
It's very critical condition that we are facing right now. As in the tap that they've closed, it's really giving us stress, and like it's so difficult for us to get water, even to drink. So for drinking, we ought to buy the sachet water, which is the pure water. And we boys like this, we are in one room. At times, we used to spend our 20 cedis in a day just for sachet water, drinking, not even for bathing. At times, we don't even bath for a day. This is the Vacu company here, and like they have some water gutter. It's even a gutter, not a clean water. It's a gutter that we used to fetch to bath, and others too have been fetching it to their various home. For them, I don't know what they use it for.
So this is the daily site here in Tema, but at least the Tema Newtown area, where you have the Valco Aluminium Smelting Company. Well, daily, the young and old throng to these gutters, makeshift wells and dugouts to be able to access some form of water for their daily needs. We know they spend so much on water that they drink, but until the Ghana Water Company Limited restores supply of water to their homes, this is all they're left with. Reporting for JoyNews, my name is Manuel Cranting.
Right, let's now get some responses from the Ghana Water Company Limited. Stanley Marty speaks for them. Mr. Marty, good afternoon. Thank you for your time. Has the situation at Tema Newtown come to your attention, and what exactly is the cause? Do we have Mr. Marty?
Hello.
There you are. Thank you for your time, Mr. Marty. Thanks for joining us. So are you aware of the situation at Tema Newtown, and what exactly is causing it?
Yes, we are aware, and it's not only in Tema Newtown, but most parts of the eastern Accra, including some of the communities in Tema. So it's just as a result of some power challenges that we've just had, and early morning today. And then the pressure is still building up. Now, like I've been saying, it takes a lot of time for pressures to build up when we shut down for a number of days. Now, all the pipelines are dried up, everything depleted to zero. And so now we are forced to push in water and put in a lot of mechanisms to enable water to get to all areas. So we are still working on it. We're on the ground. And we see some improvement now. We are hopeful that by close of day today, the situation should stabilize. As I speak, the situation is normalizing gradually.
Right. Tema has had challenges with water far longer than just the past week, though. What's the reason for that?
You know, we have said that almost every month or almost every week, we've had to shut down the pond treatment plant to enable some repair works done on the transmission line from Pond, because it's weak now, so we are seeing a lot of bursts anytime there are high pressures. So averagely we get 3 bursts in a month, and building up pressures is very difficult when it so happens, because you keep building up the pressure, and then when the system is about stabilizing, then you realize another fault somewhere, and then you are forced to shut down and have a repair. Okay, so, and that is why we have said that we were going to shut down every quarter to enable us change some of the weaker sections of the main transmission line, so that at least we can have it strengthened a bit, so to enable us to have consistent and constant flow. And then it can also serve us for the next 10 to 15 years when while we'll be looking for funds to change the entire pipeline. Now that pipeline is 56 years old, Kojo. So you can imagine it's past its lifespan, and we are only forced to manage it so that at least we still can produce water and get water to our people to consume. Thank you.
All right, thank you too. Stanley Marty is the Communications Director for the Ghana Water Company Limited. And we've got a lot more to discuss. We're going to hear from our partners and sponsors, but when we come back, let's have a conversation about the protection of children in Ghana. Constitution says in everything their interests should be put first. Why do we not do that? After these. Welcome back. Now, parents of a 3-month-old baby born without arms in the northern region say they're under pressure from family and community members to kill the child because she's physically challenged. Now, children born with deformities in the community where they reside, Kabonwule, are considered bad luck and evil spirits. But parents of the baby, named Mauko, loosely translated as only God, are determined not to conform to the age-old beliefs and practices. Maxwell Agbagba traveled there and has the rest of the story.
I am on a motorbike heading to Kabonwule, a community about 3.5 hours drive from Tamale. Persons who work in the child protection space have alerted me to an age-old belief where physically challenged babies are seen as evil spirits. Here, I meet residents who tell me some children who are victims of the practice leave the hospital very healthy but die later under very mysterious circumstances. The Northern Region Police has no record of these alleged killings, but residents say it is usually done on the blind side of law enforcement officers and people who will possibly raise an alarm. I'm now at the residence of the 3-month-old baby born without arms in Kabonwule. She cries as her mother tries to lull her to sleep. Father of the baby, Ananias Kweku Viagbedo, says he's under pressure to do away with his baby because she's physically challenged.
My friends and loved ones do not want to get closer to me now. I have also decided not to allow outsiders get access to the baby, so they will not attribute any misfortune in the community to my child. I have had misunderstandings and quarrels with my in-laws. My in-law says my child will die if she enters her house, because that's the belief that such children should not enter her house. That is the belief and practice here. When my child was born, the midwives advised me not to harm him. They told me children are delivered at the hospital, but anytime they check up on them later, they are told they are dead. They killed them, many of them. We hear it all the time.
He says he will not bow to the custom and beliefs of his community. Mother of the baby, Mary Nyong, says there's pressure on her to get rid of baby Mauko.
They want to kill my child because they say she's not human. I know she's human and she'll be great in future.
I've now met Solomon Atta, his secretary to the chief of Kabonwule. He says it is the belief of the community that physically challenged children are evil spirits. He cites an instance where a physically challenged 1-week-old baby was killed.
Children who are born disabled, at times we do away with them because we say they're not fit into the society. Even in school self, I don't think we allow them to go to school. We believe that they have evil spirits, or maybe it is sort of witchcraft. The witches are hunting them. Or maybe the person is born a witch. So such a person, we don't want him in the society. I think some years, one happened. A small child was born about a week. The child started eating. So the parents have to do away with the child.
Wait, because the child started
eating food.
1 week?
1 week.
It's not good?
It's not good. It's not good.
Why?
It is not practice. In fact, it is inhuman. A child, when the child start eating there, I don't think it is normal. Fufu, they left over. The mother saw the child eating. They have to do away with the child.
So the child was killed?
The child was killed.
Solomon Atta agreed to take me to the chief priest of Carbon-Wullet, an old man whose name loosely translates as death is better than trouble. He confirms the assertion by the secretary to the chief, as he says physically challenged children are not fit to live amongst humans.
It is all part of our belief. They are all from God, but not all of them are from Him. Some of the children do not look like humans. When there are deformities in the leg and other parts of their body, we discard them.
What you say? You okay. Because
we do not live with them because they do not look like humans. Okay, so the hospital, where's the
Godfred Goldan Vovrego is the Mandai district pastor of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He is one of the people pushing for change in the community.
Honestly speaking, it has been a big problem in the community. The most painful thing is the innocent child and the family, the parents, the way they have been stigmatized in the community. In fact, my brother has gone through a serious, let me say, stigmatization.
As pressure to get rid of 3-month-old Mauko grows, her mother and father say they are optimistic she'll become a shining light for her community and a story will change the age-long belief.
Right, let's talk about this. Joining me on Zoom for this conversation is Mr. Bright Appiah. He's the Executive Director of Child Rights International. Mr. Appiah, good afternoon and thank you for your time. All right, now you might have to unmute your microphone there. Now you work in this space. I don't. I'm shocked. Are you?
Yes, I'm a bit shocked because it's a decision of a community, not because an individual decided to engage in that kind of act. So that makes me a bit surprised that what brought about that, what went to that decision and all that. So I'm a bit surprised about that when I saw it the first time.
Right. Now, I mean, some of the stories that Maxwell is being told by the members of the community, they beggar belief. A child was killed because she was spitting out food. So that child is dead now. And the community speaks openly about it. I'm confused, really. Is this another thing we can say is a lack of education, really?
Exactly. I think that the whole community needs some kind of orientation, and if that is done, I think it will change their perception. So if, for instance, the example that they gave, for that matter, a child must be dealt with or done away with. It's you will not classify it as a cultural belief, but I think that it's purely based on ignorance, and for that matter, they took that action. So it's a multiple approach that needs to be used in dealing with that particular community. It's not only things that they have committed or they are violating the right of children, but I think that beyond that, you also need to provide them some level of education to understand what the makeup of children are, from the medical point of view, so that they would appreciate the context in which they have to pursue their cultural beliefs. But what is most important is that no matter what, you cannot take a child's life on the basis of cultural belief. So irrespective of whatever they've done, I think that there's some level of offense that have been committed against children. For that matter, we need to pursue that angle. I personally wanted to call so that whatever we can also do to assist that community or to assist your reporter or the station we are ready to do that so that at least the lives of children can be saved in that community.
Are we not at the point, Mr. Appiah, where, led by institutions like yours, society needs to say that, in fact, this is beyond education? I'll tell you why I'm asking this. In a town called Dinchira Obuasi, the community massed up and killed a soldier who is trained to die anyway, but he was killed unjustly, and all of them were prosecuted. They are currently in court. Now we have a village where they are killing babies, not soldiers, babies. And we have a constitution that says that in all things we should put the interest of the child first. I mean, since when did this become something to be combated with education? Why are we not rounding them all up and jailing them?
It's a whole community action that they've taken. So it means that there's some level of agreement. And for killing, it's a crime. That one, you cannot say that you want to use education to deal with that. So anybody involved in that kind of act must be brought to book. That is a fact. But beyond that, the whole community needs education. So the processes must, we feel that, look, that action must be prosecuted, and anybody involved, whether it is a cultural belief or not, you have taken the life of a child. And even taking your own life is criminal. To what extent can you take somebody's life on the basis of a certain cultural belief and think that it is normal, to the extent that those who refuse to also succumb to some of these decisions are being harassed and are being stigmatized in the community? That is a big thing. So the criminal aspect is there. But looking at the community in its entirety, I think that they would also need education. We are not ruling out the criminal aspect of it. I think that action must be taken. And if this report can be submitted to Ghana Police Service, I think that we would also assist in that process so that we can achieve certain results.
I guess my question is this. So this education, should it happen while they are in jail? Or should we simply go into the community and offer them education as a counter for them agreeing to murder children?
No, you see, somebody is responsible. If you listen to the Ochami to the priest, clearly it means that order is coming from a person who believes that the gods have asked him to undertake some of these activities. That person has totally committed
But if my pastor tells me to go and kill someone and I obey that order, I will still be sent to jail. Everybody who assisted me in that will be sent to jail. So really, is there any nitpicking? Is there any separation here? If the entire community believes that the children they have been killing so far, you know, they were doing it under orders, should they not still all be rounded up and prosecuted? And then we can educate them while they are serving their sentence.
Whoever gives the order and whoever also engaged in the process of killing must be arrested. And after that,
and those who abetted, and those who supported it, and those who covered it up.
Exactly. All those people must be rounded up and picked up. So for us, even to start with, I think that if this report can also be submitted to Ghana Police, whatever it is that we need to do from our end, we will do to support that. But we are also saying that beyond that, we need to also engage the community, because I strongly believe that there are some people in the community that do not support this kind of act. If not, I don't think that even your reporter will have the opportunity to visit that community to do that. And those people must also be encouraged to stand on their feet to defend the right of children. And then the community must also be given some level of light so that they would appreciate the context in which the state regards children and what we need to do for them. So as for the criminal aspect, we are not ruling it out at all. But if steps can be taken for the report to be made, why not? We would also lend our support so that we can achieve results.
So let's talk about those you just mentioned, the people who are fighting to resist this sort of regime in the village. The parents of Mauku who are fighting hard for his life. What sort of support can an organization like yours give to people who are under that sort of pressure?
Well, we don't know their state. Normally, before us organization will give support, we need to carry out what we call the social inquiry report on the family to determine what kind of support that we need to give. But in a normal circumstances, if you are facing stigmatization, the immediate thing that is required is for us to evacuate them from the community. But in doing so, it means that we are also supporting that, but their presence in the community can change a lot of things. So whatever support that we will need, they will need, that we will support them to live in the community, to champion the cause, to provide education. We will do that. So if you are able to get any social inquiry report on them, why not? We would provide any support that they will require in the process.
Thank you for that. Now let's talk about some other child rights issues that are making the news today. Earlier we played a story of Wesley Girls Senior High School, where it's alleged that the school is not allowing Muslim students to observe Ramadan through fasting. They are not being allowed to pray either. And one particular student has actually volunteered to give up her right to do that, even though her father had wanted to pull her out of the school. Lots of issues to discuss there. First of all, what is the take of Child Rights International on this situation?
I think that's the first day that this deal was brought to our attention. I was a bit worried because the institutions like Wesley Girls, which I have worked with for many years, which I know they respect the right of children, and then they place it in the context. I was a bit alarmed by that. But whatever it is, I think that this young lady must be applauded for the action that she took in terms of speaking on the issue, demanding to see the headmistress and also negotiate the process of her enjoying her religious rights and all that. So for me, at that level, she's done very well. But this also speaks to a larger environment that we need to protect for the welfare of our children. When children belong to a certain religious belief, and there is time for them to exercise that belief, which will not affect other rights of other children in the school, I think that right must be granted. And this is not what we have to encourage in terms of what they did, Wesley Girls did. And this also comes back to the issue of how children need to also operate within the school environment, vis-a-vis the school regulations and all that. So for me, it's a test case. And if it is a matter of we also looking at this in context of law, so that there will be a proper establishment of what needs to be done moving forward, we would assist. We have assisted the Rastafarians to take the matter to court, which of course we are hoping that something good will come out of it. So it speaks to the same thing, where environment where children are supposed to exercise their fundamental human rights are being denied as a result of a certain belief system and all. So clearly, this is a typical example, but it is good that it has come out and then people are discussing it, and we hope that the school authorities will take a proper decision on this matter. And if not, whatever we need to do for students to have their right protected, we will go to that length.
Now, as this discussion has evolved on social media and so forth, some are pointing to the response of the headmistress, who said that it's not only Muslims who are banned from fasting. Any religion that wants to fast will not be allowed. Does that make the situation better or worse?
For me, it makes it worse because you see, when you look at the UN Convention on the Right of the Child, it also alludes to the fact that children must be given their right to association and then also enjoyment of certain rights. But that right must be recognized in the context, and whatever they do must always be in the best interest of the child. So it ruled out cultural practices that impede the progress of children, cultural practices that fail to build the spiritual levels of children. So it cut all those things out. But when you look at certain practices like fasting, like worshiping and all that, it doesn't take away or it doesn't create any nuisance for other children belonging to other religious institutions. So if you deny them, then probably you are building a certain institution that would constantly or continuously deny children their right. And that for me is an error. And I think that this is not something that should even be a matter of the court having interpretation to it. But the school must come to the realization that some of these things can be allowed in the school environment. Ramadan is a huge festive period for the Muslim community. And in our practice as a nation, you would even realize that some pastors during this time would visit the chief imam and even chief imam goes to churches and all that. This is done to promote some level of a unity. And that is the concept of our secondary school, the boarding system that we have in this country. So if we want to promote diversity in our boarding system and religious beliefs are also impeding somebody exercising his or her religious belief, I think that it's an error that needs to be corrected.
What do you say to those who suggest that, well, if you allow one group, then you have to allow them all, and then suddenly there will be chaos? What do you say to that?
Yes, people are raising the argument that when you do that, you're going to open the floodgate. But I don't think that is the case, because the law is strict on some of these things, and it clearly states that the act of children must be to their benefit, must be the best interest of children. So even there are certain religious practices that cannot be done within the school environment. So for instance, if a child is sick, and the child belongs to a certain religious belief, and say that belief says that the child should not be given blood, it is not the right of the parent, it's not the right of even of the child to decide that you need blood to survive. For that matter, because of your religious belief, you should not be given blood. And the law and the court has spoken extensively on that. So there are instances where the law will say that because of the life that the child requires, the life of a child, certain things must also, religion cannot have a role to play in that. And it is so simple that if it will not deny other children their right of enjoyment to have access to the environment, these things cannot be, some of the belief system cannot be done in schools and all that. But the instances that we have cited are not cases that should be an issue for us to even talk about at all. I think that we would urge Wesley girls to correct the error. In my opinion, I think that is an error that needs to be corrected.
Right. Now, you've talked about how you are assisting the family of the Rastafarians to take the matter up in court. But obviously, since that issue occurred, we are now having another example in Wesley Girls. How much of this should be laid at the doorstep of the Ghana Education Service, who, in spite of the first incident, have still failed to provide any concrete guidelines for all schools to follow when it comes to religious activities, for which reason we are now having another occurrence?
I think it's a big problem. We've not had a smooth policy from Ghana Education Service. For that matter, it gives the schools the authority to decide on what they would call as their schools regulation and whatever, depending on the majority of people from a particular belief system on the board, on the governing board of the schools, they decide to tilt the policies in a certain direction. So it has created some kind of chaos in the system where people feel that they can decide what they want to do. Then again, you will also study the history of the establishment of these schools. You realize that it's purely emanating from a certain religious point of view that government of Ghana has accepted to run. But once the state has accepted to run schools, we expect that there will be a standardized principle that will rule in the affairs of how these schools would also pass their rules and regulations. And that is missing. The search that we did shows that for some time now, they've not had any policy to standardize the system for schools to also develop their policies. But we've been told that there's some document in the system that they want to finalize so that the schools will respond to some of these things and all that. So we are hoping that they will do it. But for now, I feel that they've disappointed our students, and it is making life difficult for our children. And there's a need for them to do that. Since they said they started something, let's hope and see what will come out of it. And I also believe that the case in Achimota, whatever the outcome may be, would set a good example for the development of a policy that will regulate the school environment.
Now, Child Rights International is doing a lot of work in this area. This case with the Rastafarians is not the only one that you have championed into a court, a court case. But more recently, we saw the sentence of 90 days in jail being handed down to Ekua Pimpolo after what she did on social media with her son. What is your take on how this case has evolved so far, with her currently out on bail?
Well, for me, there are three things that I would pick from this particular issue, in a sense that for some time we have we've made some reservation about the processes that leads to prosecuting cases that relates to children, and this particular case demonstrated the commitment of the police, also putting the cases together, and then also the commitment that the court showed in prosecuting this particular case, all because the child is involved. And for me, it shows that if we design a system that respects the right of every person, then irrespective of who you are, the law will deal with you, provided you have violated the right of the child. Then again, there is another thing that also came out that has to do with the child itself. Throughout the processes, we've not had any pronouncement made on the welfare of the child, not even from social welfare, especially where sentences have been done by the court. And that, for me, also shows that we have a very weak system in dealing with issues of that nature. For that matter, the life of a child in such instances becomes a life that the child must live at the mercy of other people and all that. Because in a normal circumstances, you expect that the child in question will be committed to a fit person, either in the family or any person that the state deems fit, to do that. But we didn't see all that. And the last thing has to do with the level of insult that people poured out and the kind of argument that even intellectuals were raising in relation to some of the processes that were engaged and all that. And that, for me, sent a very strong signal to us as organization to strongly intensify our work that relates to people knowing the law that guides children and what the punitive actions are when you commit offense against a child. And little things that we do to children that can even constitute a crime and all that. So for us, these are the three things that we've learned. For we pursuing issues relating to children, we are not disturbed about whatever people are saying. We will go full end to take any matter to court. This is not the first time. It's rather unfortunate that even serious cases that we have handled in the past did not even come into the media for people to talk about it, because I see this as a minor issues and all that. There are cases that people have gone in for 25 years and all that. So these are few things, but we have resolved. And as I always say, we have a covenant with children, and we are always biased when a child is involved in a matter. So we will pursue it to every end to ensure that we all recognize the laws that protect children, and that anybody who commits offense against the child will face the full edge of the law.
Throughout the process, we haven't heard about anything regarding the welfare of the child in question. Yeah. Did you make your own inquiries while this case was ongoing? Did you keep an eye on the child to see what's happening?
Yes, I did, because the approach that was given to this particular case was purely based on criminality. So the law is very strict when it comes to criminal offenses. And then also what I've realized is that in our laws, we have not looked at some of these things when it comes to when you want to sentence a mother or a father to imprisonment. What do you need to do when a child is involved and all that? The law is silent on that. It only talks about it when, if it's a woman, a pregnancy test must be carried out to determine the way the judge would even pronounce the judgment and all that. But when it comes to the welfare of the child, we are not, we don't have it attached to the criminal procedures of this country. But whatever it is still the responsibility, even if the court fails to do that, it is still the responsibility of the social welfare system of this country to do that, because the law requires that in instances of that nature, they will carry a social inquiry report on the state of the family, then to determine what they need to do in cases where the judge decides that they want to prosecute the matter or pass judgment. Then they can safeguard the welfare of the child.
Right. Bright Appear of Child Rights International, Executive Director, thank you very much for your time with us this afternoon. Let's do some other stories. Now, ranking member on Parliament's Select Committee is urging government to compensate farmers whose produce was contaminated and destroyed by liquid waste from landfill sites. This was revealed during a tour of some major landfill sites in the northern region.
Members of the Parliamentary Select Committees on Finance, Local Government and Works and Housing have been touring some major landfill sites in the northern region. Government, through a private sector support, is targeting the recycling of waste generated from 5 districts in the northern region to curb the situation. The construction of an integrated recycling and compost plant is expected to hold all 500 tons of waste generated here. One major issue that came up during the tour was a compensation for farmers whose produce were destroyed or contaminated by liquid waste from these over-age dumping sites. Currently, these farmlands have been abandoned in Tamale. The ranking member of the Local Government Committee, Edwin Neelante van der Poy, argued that farmers who were affected must as soon as possible be compensated.
When we came in the last time, one of the most serious things we saw was the fact that this landfill site was on a higher ground and all the rice farms down there are on lower ground. And as such, whenever it rains, it washes the leaches onto the rice farms and virtually killing the farms of the farmers. Today, I've seen them doing some work on it, but I will go further to say that possibly all the farmers around here, the assembly must collaborate with them. And whatever they've suffered as a result of this, lack of proper management of this site some time past, we should look at a little bit of compensation for them. Because I think that once we've done this, we've developed the new site, they can come back to their farming. This place, the compost plant can even act as, let me say, a supply point of manure for their farms.
The chairman of the Local Government Committee, Emmanuel Akwesi Jemfi, explained the need for government to help fund the construction of these recycling plants.
We commend Zoom Lion Ghana Company Limited for taking up this challenge. It's a big challenge. What government should have gone for money to implement this laudable project. But Zoom Lion Company Limited, collaborating with government to resolve these waste management challenges, is something that we need to commend the CEO and the company for coming to aid of Ghanaians. And I believe that at the appropriate time, the government and the good people of Ghana will enjoy the benefits of what the Zoom Lion Ghana Company Limited is doing.
The consultant of the project, Kweku Yeboadansu, told journalists that substations will be created to help collect waste from other districts to feed the plant.
Research that we did, we realized Tamale generates about 500 tons of waste daily, and this facility seeks to manage about 400 tons of waste on the first phase and the second phase, which will make about 800 tons a day. So this facility has the capacity or capability to manage the waste generated. But what we were discussing earlier was about the number of districts that we've looked at. We have about 5 districts that will be bringing this waste here that will be under the management of Waste Landfill and IRECOP. So in view of that, we are planning to expand in future where there will be other machineries that would help manage more waste from other municipalities. But with that, we are still looking at building other facilities which can help the other districts whilst this one is in use.
Obviously, this cannot take care of the whole northern region.
It can't take care of the whole northern region, but we are making plans to have transfer stations where we don't have to put so much investment like we are putting here, but it will be like transfer stations where other smaller trucks will go to lift waste and sent to transfer station where the transportation will be done into these places. So basically that's what the company is looking at.
Right. Now this afternoon, the Ghana Health Service has ordered the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Wamkele Mini, to remain in isolation and serve the full 7-day mandatory time for persons who test positive for COVID-19. Mr. Mene tested positive on arrival at the Kotoka International Airport on his return from a trip abroad, but he's been contesting this positive result, insisting the testing systems may be defective. Mr. Mene took the Johnson & Johnson vaccine 2 weeks ago and tested negative for COVID just hours before embarking on his trip to Ghana. His disagreement with a positive result at Kotoka International Airport got him to conduct 2 other PCR tests, both of which came out negative. Mr. Mene is not the only one contesting the accuracy of results at the airport, as scores of people said to have tested positive remain in quarantine in government facilities or in hotels. But in a statement from the Ghana Health Service, all of those identified at the airport are to be positive must observe the directives to isolate and ask that the AFTA advises the Secretary General to observe the same. Joining us now is the Chairman of Risk Communication and Community Engagement of Ghana's COVID-19 response, Dr. Dacosta Abuaje. Dr. Abuaje, thank you for your time. Please explain to us what has necessitated this statement. Hello, Dr. Abuaje. I'm hoping you can hear us.
I can hear you. We just want to reinforce that our system is robust and we trust the system. The briefings I have from the occurrence at the Kotoka International Airport surrounding the Secretary General's refusal to obviously accept the result. And so once you test at the airport, you are under our control, or you are our patient. So we take you through our protocols. So it's exactly what we have done. So we gave him home isolation, which will be given to many of our patients. So it means that he's supposed to fully comply with the directive from His Excellency and the protocols of the country until such a time that we would discharge him from quarantine.
Okay. You said you trust your systems and that they are robust.
Yes.
So how do you know this? How do you check to ensure that your systems are robust?
Thank you. So the regulators, for example, the FDA, do validation at the airport often, and they have, they normally do, I think, once a month or something. So they do it. And bear in mind, he's not the only person who has tested positive and has been confirmed by another PCR. We also, obviously, we do, we validate the positives that we get from the airport through genomic sequencing and others. So it's just to reiterate.
Can you explain that, please? Can you explain that? You said you validate the positives you get at the airport through genomic sequencing. What's that?
Okay, so normally what happens is once you test the positive, we want to know the type of strain that you are carrying. So researchers at the University of Ghana will take the sample and take it there to validate whether obviously it is real positive or not. So that's why we take patients through an assessment before so at that point, we are still under quarantine or isolation to make sure that you do not expose obviously persons around you. So it's exactly what we have done for the Secretary General. So we are just being careful that obviously he tested positive and he needs to be in isolation. We do not accept any test that he conducted because when our public health system takes the positive, it is the system, that's our public health system, that should validate the same, obviously, the other positive. Or, what I'm just trying to say is that when you test positive, our system will now validate to make sure that you are negative before we obviously discharge you from isolation. So currently he's our patient and he still needs to be in isolation.
Okay. We'll come to the home isolation issue in a minute, but I'm wondering, so you said that you validate these through genomic sequencing. Has that been done for Mr. Wamkele Mene's sample? Has it gone through genomic sequencing?
I'm not in the position to confirm that if it's been done, but certainly I know that all the positives that we get from the airport, we do take them through that process.
Right. So it will, even if it hasn't been done, are you telling us that it will be done?
Yes, of course. That's why, because it's a period. So we have the 7 days window to obviously do it. You see, if let me explain something. Our discharge policy is 10 days. You know that. So we are saying that when you are coming to our country, you have to have 3 days, 3 days negative test. So when you come to the country and you test positive, then you do the 7 days, which corresponds to our 10 days of discharge. So that's, that's our protocol. Okay. So that's the scientific basis to why we are doing this. But the fact of the matter is that we just want to say that our system is robust, and he's not the only person who has tested positive or negative at the airport. Patients, and we will extend to him all he obviously, and he should comply with the directive.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important that the public has faith in the system that they are paying a lot of money, to get tested by. Now, this is an antigen test that we're doing at the airport. My understanding is that all things being equal, a PCR test is more sensitive than an antigen test. But the PCR tests that Mr. Wamkele in particular has done were not administered by the system. That's the reason why you don't accept them. Am I right?
Yes, correct.
But if the system...
We don't even know when he did the test.
Right, okay. But in the system...
Not our protocol in a way. That is not our protocol is that once our system picks you up, it is our system that will validate you.
Yes. So that's what I was coming to. So if the system were to give him a PCR test, then you would trust the results of that, wouldn't you?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
And we have a process that we go through.
Okay, good. Now, you have the sample that he gave at the airport, which if at the time he gave that sample, he was positive, that sample will always test positive. So why don't you simply subject that sample to a PCR test by the system to show that it's still positive so that the public can remain confident in the system at the airport?
Kwanyo, I think that we should respect the procedures that we have in the country. Like I've explained, we deal with so many patients, we have our system, we are saying that this is risk reduction that we are doing. I mean, we expect that obviously it is uncomfortable for people when they test positive, but we also have a responsibility to safeguard our citizens. So for this reason, we will always make sure that the protocols are complied to by all persons entering our country, irrespective of status. So what I'm just trying to say is that for his case, obviously, he is still our patient. He is supposed to complete 7 days mandatory isolation, of which we will arrange to do the second test, which we do for all our patients for him.
Right. I'm not sure if I've got an answer to the question I was asking. You're saying we should follow procedure. Does that mean that it would violate procedure to subject the sample he gave to further testing? Would that violate the procedure?
What I'm saying, we don't do exemptions for anyone.
Okay.
We don't do exemptions for anyone.
Okay, everyone, I understand.
Is treated equal under our Ghanaian laws.
I understand.
And under our protocols, we treat everyone. We will extend to him all the courtesies that he deserves. Obviously, our doctors will be in touch with him through the Foreign Ministry, as we've been doing currently.
Okay, so I think I understand what you're saying. You wouldn't do that for just one sample. You know, you wouldn't grant an exception. Okay, but you did say that you would do genomic sequencing for every positive case that comes through the airport. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. We do.
So can you keep us informed on that? You don't have the information right now, but can you find out for us if all of these samples have been subjected to genomic sequencing, and if the one in particular that has become a subject of public interest, that is the sample of Mr. Wamkelemene, if it has gone through genomic sequencing and has also been proved to be positive once again? Would that be fair, right?
That would be a management decision to do that. But I think you are right. I mean, I can follow up for you. But what I'm just saying is that we don't want to obviously segregate and obviously have special protocols for people when such things happen.
Yeah.
My only advice is that he is our patient, and we will continue to monitor him on that 7-day period, and we will discharge him according to our protocols. So I can find out for you, but I think that it's obviously the case that we want our protocols to be followed.
Right.
Because, I mean, since we started testing at the airport, I mean, as of the 28th April, we have tested over 244,851. And obviously, some came positive, others came negative, and we've been able to use this system at the airport to obviously reduce some of the importations that we do have in our country. So I think it is us as Ghanaians to trust what we are doing, to make sure that it is actually, and we know it's working. It's working. From our data, it is really working. And we cannot continue to bastardize our system as a system is not good. Yet it is the same. But Ghana is one of the few countries that we have put this system in place. And since then, it has contributed a lot to our fight in this COVID-19. And it has contributed to the reduction of importation of cases in our country, and we should continue to abide by the country's protocol, regardless of status.
Dr. Aboagye, several things have happened recently which have created a unique situation. First of all, according to the Frontiers company, they've started to register very high numbers, comparatively high numbers on a daily basis. So at some point they had 40 something odd people testing positive in one day. Then it went up to 75 on the 24th of April. This was enough cause for concern for them to write to the Ghana Airport Company. This is unique. It's not that has not been the norm. Secondly, these people who are coming in such large numbers and testing positive are coming from different parts of the world. Some are coming from China, some from the Emirates, from the UK, all over the world. And they are all coming in, and somehow they are testing positive in spite of their PCR tests, which they did within 3 days of traveling, being negative. So this is unique. It's not normal. Now you have some of the people who have been told they are positive complaining and challenging the result because they claim that they've done other tests that came out negative. So would you say that these set of circumstances, when you put them together, there is enough there for the Ghana Health Service to want to check the quality of what is happening at the airport rather than simply relying on its historic reliability?
Thank you. I think let's understand something here. You see, because you tested negative on a PCR, it's not to say that you continue to test negative. There is no guarantee for that. Look, the fact is, today when you test positive, there is nothing to show that tomorrow you test positive or negative. There is nothing to show that you do that. So to me, I think we should always bear in mind that at least we have a system that will be able to detect cases at the airport. And like I said, I mean, obviously, it is also a case that we are dealing with a virus whose incubation period is 2 to 14 days. So you can have it at any time. So there's no justification to say that you tested 3 days time. I mean, you tested negative when you were obviously in your home country and visiting Ghana or coming to Ghana. When you get here, you test negative. No, I mean, even if you look at us who have been traveling, after it's within the last few days that we do our shopping and other things. So you can get the virus anytime. And you see, we are dealing with tighter values here, like we are dealing with the levels. So to me, I think that I still stand on the point that we have one of the best systems at our airports, and we should continue to believe in it. It has helped us a lot in reducing importation. And I mean, we have, if you can see, we have now strengthened even what we have put there. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has actually issued a directive mandating that if you are coming to our country, you have to obviously upload your certificate, your COVID-19 negative test certificate on the biomass. So these are additional measures that we have put in place to make sure that we check fake certificates as well. Then when you are also going out, is the same. So I think we have to monitor these systems to see how it will play out. But I believe that we have one of the best defense at our airport, and we should continue to believe and obviously have faith in it. Because, I mean, it's working. It's really working. It's working.
Can you tell us which countries these increased numbers are coming from?
Let me be honest here. You see, I mean, I'm the one in charge of risk communication. Stigma and discrimination is actually something that I will not really want to, obviously. So I don't want to stigmatize any country. I don't want to. The only thing that I want to tell you is that we have the data of the countries that these cases are coming from, and we have put additional measures in place to make sure that we curtail the virus.
Dr. Abuaje, forgive me for interrupting, but this is a global health crisis. Ghanaians continue to travel to many, many countries. If there are countries where the PCR tests are unreliable, according to the Ghana Health Service, should you not be informing Ghanaians so that when they can make decisions about whether to travel to such places or not? For instance, if and you can confirm this for me if I'm inaccurate, but I understand that airlines have been briefed that the majority of the numbers that came in were from China. So if this is the case, should you not inform Ghanaians so that they can make decisions about whether or not to travel to China if it is likely that they are going to come back with a fake or a false positive, negative result from there?
So now, you remember what I told you, we have put in place a system to check fake certificates. So we believe that this system that we put in place is going to help us. So I'm not going to mention any country, whether, any country to stigmatize any country of this. We have issued travel
Dr. Abuaje,
advice.
I don't know if this is stigmatizing the country. I mean, I really don't want to travel somewhere and come back and be quarantined for 7 days. I don't want that. Now, as a Ghanaian, should I not be informed that that is likely to happen to me if I travel to a particular place? Also, if we're trying to protect our borders.
So you can obviously do, there are various forms of doing it. You can actually categorize it under continents. Like you can say when traveling to Asia, you have to. But I have a problem mentioning names, and I don't think it conforms to my standard. It's to, the international standards of obviously naming countries. If we were to have alerts to a specific country, that one, yes, I can say that we have alerts to this specific country, I can, but as it stands now, I am not in the position to name countries where cases are coming from. I mean,
do we have alerts to specific countries? Which countries? Which countries do we have alerts to at the moment?
Well, I think we have continents, rather. So I know that of Asia, and I know, yes, I think that's what I remember. I know that of
Right.
Asia.
You said that does not conform to international standards, Dr. Abuaji, but I know that other countries all have nation-specific alerts. So if you go to the US, they have specific alerts about countries you should consider not traveling to because of COVID. The UK has them. All the European countries have them. In fact, the European Union has them. If you go to Asia, China has them. Australia has them. Taiwan has them. So actually, internationally, they are specific.
We have not issued to any specific country. We have not done that. That's what, because you want to know where the cases are coming from. And I am saying that I am not in a position to give you that answer, that the cases are coming from country A or B.
Oh, we've moved on from that. We've moved on from that.
We have issued continent travel advice. That is what we are sticking to.
Right.
So if it is time for us to issue country-specific advice, we will do that. But as it stands now, we have not done that. We have only issued to continents, and I've mentioned one to you. So my only point is that once we have not issued country-specific, obviously, advice, I am not able to put forward names of countries these cases are coming from.
Okay, so at the moment, Ghanaians are advised not to travel to Asia, right?
I think, and you know what? I mean, all these are also not new. I mean, we do put it on our website and everything. So it's not that they are not, even if some of the Asian countries have even issued advice that their citizens should not actually travel. So you could see that will even be impacting on what is happening at our airports. So what I'm just trying to put forward is that now we have continent-specific alerts. We don't have country-specific alerts.
Right. So to clarify, at the moment, the Ghana Health Service advises Ghanaians not to travel to Asia because of COVID-19. Any other continent?
I think it was issued by the Foreign Affairs Ministry, so it's not the Ghana Health Service. So you have to check from the alert from the Foreign Ministry, not the Ghana Health Service.
Right, right. Thank you for that clarity. Now, Mr. Wamkele was asked to isolate at home. Why was he not asked to go to a hospital?
No, I think, so we have that protocol as well. Based on assessment, we can ask you to isolate at home, or we'll take you to our facilities. I mean, we have a couple of patients at home. So have you heard of home management? Home management is something that we introduce as part of our COVID management.
Tell us about that assessment. What would determine whether someone will be sent home or not?
Okay, so once you test positive, clinicians will assess you and obviously determine whether they have to keep you in our facility at Ga East and other places, or you will be going to a hotel, or you do home isolation. They would have asked you a couple of questions. So based on those questions, then we determine whether you have to isolate at our facility, home, or a hotel. Right. But once we put you on home isolation, you are under strict observation by maybe you may have a doctor or something who will be liaising with us, or we will send our doctors there to obviously do further assessments and others. So those are some of the things that we do.
Okay. Which hotels are we using?
I think. So sorry, I'm not in a position to give you the names of the hotels, but I think some hotels are part of the ends, the exits listed, but I'm not in a position to give you the names.
Okay, you don't have the information, or?
No, I don't have the information on the
right, okay. Thank you. I want you to stay with us, Dr. Abuaji, because this next story is something that you can educate us on as well. Ghana is expected to receive 300,000 Russian-made Sputnik V vaccines this week to get our vaccination program back on track. The country has struggled to keep to its plan following supply cuts from India. Now, the Asian country is the main producer of AstraZeneca vaccines, but it is struggling on its own to cope with demand at home and to deal with significant surge in COVID-19 cases. Speaking to journalists on the sidelines of an event to mark the 11th Africa Vaccination Week in Ghana, Health Minister Kweku Agyeman-Manu said he expects delivery of some 300,000 doses of the Sputnik V vaccines this week.
We are trying to make efforts to try to get in the country some Russian-type Sputnik. Though we have made initial approaches and expecting some shipments to come in. They demonstrated availability and brought in the first 160,000, which is kept there, waiting for about 300,000 to come sometime this week. We were expecting about 2-3 weeks back, but we have faced challenges with vaccine availability and payment structures and things like that. I believe sometime this week we may receive the 300,000.
Health Minister Kweku Agyeman-Manu. Now, even though more countries are turning to the Russian-produced Sputnik V vaccine, a latest report by Brazilian health authorities questions its efficacy. Head of laboratory at the FDA, Eric Kakari Boating, says the revelation on the Sputnik V vaccine has not provided sufficient grounds to doubt the efficacy of the vaccine. He says the FDA is prepared to take the necessary action on the administration of the vaccine if need be. He spoke earlier in an interview on JoyNews today.
They did not mention the site where it's coming from. And that's an information not very, but then the one, we don't give, when we are giving emergency use authorization, it is site specific. You cannot bring it from any other site than the one that was approved for you to bring to okay. Ghana here. The sites that were approved are coming from Russia, about 2 sites in Russia. So we know the sites where the products are supposed to come from. The protocols is that is, Anvisa is a regulatory authority like us. We would look out for more information, specifically the parties that are involved and where it's coming. That's something that will be done.
In this case, now that you have new information, would the professional advice be that we hold on until we are able to independently verify the claims by Brazil, until we start administering Sputnik V?
Could I hear your question? What type of new information are you talking about?
The one from Brazil, that this could contain...
And did you see any specificity in what the Brazilians said?
But we just spoke to an immunologist who shared with us that those concerns must be looked at.
Yes, of course, it must be looked at. I heard you are very well. Yes, and what the points that he's raising are very valid. But that's what I'm saying. The Brazilian statement, did they tell you that the live virus, was it found in component 1 or component 2?
Sir, that's why I'm coming to you, because you are head of the laboratories at the FDA, and so you are the one who should tell us.
The component 1, the vaccine comes in 2 components. There's component 1, that is the adenoviral vector 26, and then the component 2, adenoviral vector 5. If you have to wait for us to get the certificate of loss release, we compare it to the clinical vaccine from the coupon. If there need be that we have to do the needful, we will do it. If we have to, if the virus it will be done.
And is it of concern to the FDA that this is not approved by the World Health Organization and the European Medical Agency?
Yes, why should it be a concern to us?
Right. So, Dr. Abuaji, we're about to receive some of these vaccines, several 100,000 of them. But from the very beginning, it was clear that the WHO was yet to approve this vaccine. Should this not be a cause for concern for us?
Thank you. So I think our FDA actually approved the AstraZeneca and the Sputnik V from Russia. And they might have obviously received a dossier or something from these companies and have actually scrutinized and advised us that these are the ones that we have to use. I think as a country, we do have the right to opt for which of the vaccines we want. So I think it's exactly the process that the FDA have actually gone through. Our FDA is obviously one of the best in terms of recognition across the world. I think they are in category 3 or something. So the fact is we do have a choice. There is nothing stopping us from getting the vaccine from Russia. It's a choice that we have made, and it's something that we are following, and we are getting the vaccine. We are trying so hard to get the vaccines in so that we'll be able to vaccinate our population. The FDA is in charge of safety, and they are our key advisors in terms of safety. They've told us that's safe based on the document reviewed, and we will go by that.
Right. Dr. Abuaje, I mean, the FDA itself, in the clip that we just played, admit that they have not looked into these latest concerns coming out of Brazil, even though virologists here in Ghana, like Dr. Yao Bediakon, are saying that we ought to look into them. So however good you are, if you haven't looked into something, then you can't really advise on it. So at the moment, do you not feel that we perhaps should be impressing upon the FDA to look into it so they can give us comfort that we're still okay with Sputnik V?
Okay, so thank you. I think the predominant variant in our country is the Brazilian one. Is the UK one. That's the. Let me put it again. Let me say it again so that you get me. The predominant variant in our country is the UK strain, right? And obviously, when the vaccines are received as well, the FDA do test. Obviously, they get samples and test. I think that was what the FDA man was trying to put across, that until we get the vaccines in to test, because so when it comes, it's under FDA, until they release it to the Ghana Health Service, unlike all the other vaccines. So I think that was the point he was trying to put across, that when the vaccines are received, it will be validated again by the FDA before it is released to the Ghana Health Service. Even though we'll keep it in our cold room and everything, they will be working with us to make sure that it is safe. I think that was the point he was trying to emphasize.
We are due to receive some nearly expired vaccines from Congo, according to reports. Will there have to be some special handling of them due to their status, or are they good to go? What's going to be the process with them?
Okay, so thank you. I think what we have done is that we have trained our staff to deploy. Obviously, to be able to assist us to use the vaccines quickly once they are in, once we have the approval from FDA because of their short expiry date. We've done it before. When we had the South African the MTN donation, it has shorter expiry date. But because of our strong immunization program, expanded immunization program, we were able to obviously use these vaccines within that short period of time. So it is exactly what we're going to do. I think it is also coming through from COVAS. And COVAS did an assessment and they got the information, or after reviewing our document, they knew that we are able to obviously use these vaccines quickly, immediately receive them. That is why we have been considered under this plan as well. We are capable. We have the necessary manpower and the necessary logistics to obviously deploy once we receive them quickly.
Dr. Dacosta Abuaje, in charge of risk communication at the Ghana Health Service, thank you very much for your time with us. We appreciate the clarifications. Right, let's take a breather. We won't be long. More after these. Welcome back, and we still have more for you on the Pulse. We're going to bring you sports, and then we'll hand you over to the entertainment team for Let's Talk Showbiz. That's all to come right here. Stay with us. My name is Kojo Yanks, and I'm back tomorrow with more. God bless you.